Hello and welcome to Frank's School. Well, the black cat Thor started this, and seems like he's an echo. He's here too. The darn thing is he's black, and it affects the color. Uh, He'll probably jump right back up there. Resurrection the movie, 21st shot at it, episode. This is an afterword. I've finished the plot of the movie, but I have a little bit more to say about the event. One thing about the movie, Festus's joy, how to show Festus's joy when he sees his family there again. I had thought, since he's this handsome, buff, strong man, if he just ripped his shirt off out of sheer joy, this black that he's been wearing for so long. I don't know. I don't think that would really quite work. Well, for one reason, we're to probably come out of this thinking, well, he's Muslim. These women have their heads covered. He didn't drink. And Muslims, in my impression, is they're very modest. Even the men are actually quite modest. So I don't know if that would work to express his great joy, but it would have, something could be done. All right, now the soundtrack. I want to say a little bit more about the soundtrack. I've gone along describing a soundtrack which would be vitally important to the movie, but also maybe impossible. I spoke to two composers, actually, one composer at some length about this, and he said, yes, it could be done. And he could probably do it, but I don't know if he sees how limited it is. I don't know. I just don't know. I would want the music to be almost folk-like, folk music in its simplicity. It should not be complicated. Very limited harmony. Nowadays in modern music, harmony does these very odd things and use chords. I would say the harmony shouldn't be anything further than, say, Mendelssohn would have used, or maybe Schubert. So the harmony very, very limited, and the timbres. Oh, R-E, this is wrong. The timbres, they're very limited as well. You know, in a sense, I'm taking toys away from modern composers, because with these electronic things, they can have all the timbres in the world. No, they're very controlled. Counterpoint. I didn't study counterpoint in college. I studied harmony before I decided I wasn't going to be a music major, and I didn't. The next thing to do would have been to study counterpoint. Counterpoint, to my knowledge of it, would probably be very useful here, but it might stretch counterpoint to its limit, since there are there's 7 tunes and then a drum. So there's all these leitmotifs. The 7th one was the leitmotif of the apprentices, the bikers that arrive. So what's the composer left with? Well, he can change the mode from major to minor. The tempo can be changed. The meter, 2/4, 4/4, 3/4, 6/8. Volume. What extent does he join? So much of it would be joining these themes as two characters interact. It's impossible. Now, spin-offs. I could imagine spin-offs. Remember, this is an imaginary movie, but I figure, why not? Well, as a matter of fact, I should say, too, that I'm doing this, the whole thing, really, because I felt guilty. I can't wait just forever for somebody to do this. So, to the best I can, I've been doing this. All right, I can imagine spin-offs. The making of Resurrection, the movie, that could be planned for right at the beginning. Filming all these woofers arriving, and how difficult it is, and also using a drone. Nowadays, drones have become very common, or increasingly more and more common in even amateur videos. So the making of that could be planned on. Also a sequel. Now, one of the things about this movie is there's no violence in it. There's no man-made violence in it. That's one of the whole things about changing the entire paradigm, changing the mythology of the time, almost leaving the world of the Roman god Mars for the Roman god Hephaestus, or the god of war to the god of making, of creation, of handwork. And so there's no violence. You know, can you pull a movie off like that? People seem to love to see things blown up or guns shooting or pointed. Uh, but you could make a sequel, and I would actually call it the Mon. The Mon. He's the Mon, the man, the Mon. And I would take it from the mammon, which is a word for greed, money, wealth, the desire for wealth. And I would base it on a guy like Donald Trump. The Mon. I mean, he represents all this accumulated wealth and the power that goes with it. And in that sequel, I'm not going to rough this whole thing out by any means, but I could imagine that somebody would decide this has to be stopped. You stop this movie because it will ruin everything. If the myth of the time changes, well, people won't want to buy things anymore. The economies will be ruined. You can't do this. Have somebody realize that this is a real danger. If the mythology would change, we must stop this. This would have to be somebody who would believe that the movie could actually be made and could actually shift thinking. And a man like Donald Trump, his wealth would be threatened. You know, of course, the planet might be well. The planet would be. The damage would be limited. There would be all kinds of good reasons for this. But anyway, how do you stop him? Well, attempted buyouts. A buyout of the rights to the film. Somebody offer me, for example, $1 billion or whatever to have the right to make this movie and then not make it. That would be a buyout. Of course, I'd say, keep your money. Or to buy the Aldea itself, or all of them. I mean, a man like that, and there are other men as well, they have so much money, and it's based on advertising and convincing people that they need all this stuff. Buy up all these Aldeas. So you know, he's a real estate, what do they call him, tycoon or something. So that's what he's all about. Buy up this real estate, and then you could certainly use a spying drone. You know, for those that love or seem to still need violence and blowing things up and stuff, you could put it in the sequel. Get the old man. Finally, it would be somebody would figure out it's the old man that's doing this. Get him. I don't know. I mean, I could just imagine it. And a spoof, you'd have to. Well, you wouldn't have to, but if a movie like this were as well done and as successful as I dream, it would be inviting a spoof. Well, you could be ready for that. Do the spoof yourself. I love a spoof. If it's a really good spoof, it can be really funny. And then finally, a video game. A video game based on the resurrection of an aldea, the restoration of an abandoned village. But what would make it different from any other video game I ever heard of? A little bit like this movie would be so different because it's wordless. There are no words. What would make it so different is that I would make it realistically based on kilocalories. Not just assuming that all the energy in the world is there for powering things, but you could build a computer game that would only balance if the input of energy was equal to the output, that you and that it was forced to be balanced ecologically. In other words, these people on this aldea, they're just eating beans and rice and wheat and beer and the food they're growing. That's the energy that they have to recreate or to restore, to resurrect a lifestyle. They are not relying on what do you call them, rototillers and tractors and all that. Make a video game that is realistic. That would be a one of a kind. That would be a huge challenge. But certainly it could be done. All right, I guess, have one other. I'll devote one other video to this, but it can be fairly brief. Bye for now.